Welcome to episode 29 of the Credit Card BS podcast. My name is Sean. I'm the UC Berkeley graduate that created and taught the university-sponsored course on credit card rewards. I'm here with my co-host, Sherwin.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sherwin. I'm a Stanford student who's really into the travel, points, miles, credit cards hobby. First got into this game around 1 or 2 years ago. Since then, I've amassed a lot of points and gone on a lot of cool trips like Sean has. The reason this podcast is called the Credit Card BS podcast, as many of you know, is that the initials B and S reflect the schools that Sean and I attend respectively, Berkeley and Stanford. But as usual, we've put aside our differences today to talk about credit card rewards and points. Today's episode is called Should You Buy Points?
Yes, so there's this ongoing debate in the points and miles world of, there's be these amazing sales or, they seem amazing sales, 100% bonus points, 150% bonus points on these popular airline and hotel currencies. And a lot of people say never, ever, ever buy these things because you don't know exactly what they're going to do, how the value is going to change into the future. And so today we're going to analyze that claim and see if it actually holds up. And so first I want to say, when people have the mindset of never, ever buy airline or hotel points, it's a bad mindset because you're already buying them. By not cashing out your points for cash or a cash equivalent, you're effectively choosing to buy points. If, one Chase point equals 1 cent, so 10,000 Chase points is equivalent to $100 at a cash out value. If you transfer that over to Hyatt, you have now just paid $100 for Hyatt points. I understand it might feel different because this is, fun money. You didn't actually have to earn it necessarily, but it doesn't matter. Money is completely fungible. Doesn't matter where it comes from. It is money. So if you choose to not take an opportunity to gain $100, then you have just lost that $100.
Yeah,
Sherwin, do you agree with my argument there?
Yes, and I would even take it one step further and argue that even if you obtain those points through a sign-up bonus or something where it basically felt free because of this bonus, once those points hit your Chase Ultimate Rewards or American Express account or any type of currency that could have been cashed out, I feel like those points are no longer free, right? Even if I got 90,000 points from an Ink sign-up bonus, once I've obtained those 90,000 points, using those points is no longer free because if I transfer those 90,000 points to Chase Hyatt, to World Hyatt, I gave up the opportunity to increase my bank account by $900, and therefore I paid $900 to make that transfer. Even if that original batch of points was sort of free, once I exercise a decision on how to use it, that part is not free to me. Does that make sense, Sean? Would you agree?
I agree 100%. People arguing that it is free, it's like saying, oh, I went to my job today and I got paid, so the money is free. It's not free. You earned the points. The points have a cash value. You're choosing to spend the points in different ways. So I 100% agree with the argument there.
Yes, I would add another point is that even if you're spending on a co-branded credit card, so not one that earns ultimate rewards points from Chase or thank you points from Citi, but just let's say you have a United card and it earns 1x United miles per dollar. You're actually paying money to earn each mile because there's an opportunity cost. Generally, in this area of credit cards, our baseline is a 2% unlimited flat cashback card. So if you're spending on a United card and earning 1 mile per dollar, you're giving up the opportunity to earn 2 cents per dollar. And therefore, in my view, you're basically buying United points at 2 cents per point. Would you also agree with that analysis, Sean?
100%. I think it's the same argument, right? If you're choosing to give up cash for points, you're buying the points. It's the same thing regardless. So now we have to shift the question to should you buy points, because you're already buying points. Every time you swipe on a credit card that's co-branded or you transfer points out, you are buying points, plain and simple. But the question is, when does it make sense to buy points? And so as a general rule, a very general rule, but is very, very strong of a rule, you need to wait for sales. The standard retail price that a lot of these companies will sell their points at is a complete 100% ripoff. You'll usually see 2+ cents per point for a hotel point, 3+ cents per point for an airline point. just prices that are absolutely ridiculous and never make sense to purchase them at. However, a lot of times, more often than not, it seems, these companies will have major sales on the purchases of their points, whether that be as a discount or as a bonus on the amount you purchase. So maybe, airline sells points at 2 cents a point, and they say, okay, we're offering a 100% bonus on any points purchased. Well, now you're getting double the amount of points for the same amount of money. So it'd be the same thing as a 50% discount effectively. There's different ways they market them, but you need to wait for sales to one degree or another, and to use that as a minimum baseline of even if you should buy points. Because if it's not on sale, almost always the answer is no.
Yes, I think that's a very good point. Always make sure you check the sales. There are web pages out there that actually even give you the history of when these currencies have been on sale and what price they were on sale at. So you should always compare, is the current promo like comparable to previous promos? Because not all promos will be the same. Sometimes the discount will be better than previously or worse. So you got to check.
Definitely. And so we want to wait for these sales. We want to make sure we're getting them at a reasonable price, right? And so the price that you'll be buying them at is going to be dependent on which airline or hotel program you're buying them from. But we not only want to look at the price, the specific price that we're buying it from, because some will be really cheap, but the question is really how much value can we get relative to the money we're spending. So there are two main cases here of when I think you should buy points. One would be if buying points is literally cheaper than transferring. This would be the most brain dead case of when to buy points. And so some main examples of this would be with IHG, Choice, or Wyndham. So IHG, you can buy their points very frequently at half a cent a point, or anytime at 0.6 cents a point. Check out episode 1 if you want to learn how. But that means if you're transferring Chase points to IHG, you're literally just setting money on fire. You would have more IHG points by cashing out your Chase points and then using them to buy IHG points, or using that cash to buy IHG points on sale. So similar story with Choice. With Amex and Capital One, you could literally just cash out the points cheaper usually and buy Choice points. Wyndham points go on sale less than 1 cent per point often. And so if you're transferring over to them, doesn't really make any sense because there are ways you could either get cash or get a cash equivalent to use that to buy points.
I'll say there is a slight exception for Choice. I think Citi thank you points has a transfer ratio of 1 to 2. So 1 thank you point is 2 Choice points. It can make sense for some circumstances. But for the Amex transfer ratio, that's 1 to 1. For example, it almost never makes sense to transfer since you can buy it for less than a cent per piece.
Yes, that very good point. For Choice, that is Citi is the exception there, definitely. Yes. And do you want to cover the second case of when it makes sense to buy points?
Yes. So in addition to when buying points is cheaper than transferring, sometimes it also makes sense to buy points if you have a specific redemption in mind, such that the cost of buying those points at the discount and redeeming for that redemption is lower than the cash price. For example, let's say there's a Hilton night that's $1,000 per night, and you're going to stay here regardless, and you would have paid cash anyway. And Hilton points are on sale, and they're selling at half a cent per point, and this night costs 100,000 points. You can buy 100,000 points for $500, and then literally redeem it, and you would save $500. So sometimes, it almost sounds too good to be true in some cases, but really, that's just how the pricing works. I think this is frequently possible on IHG or Hilton. So sometimes there's a discount opportunity there that you need to pay attention. I would say this makes sense for the most part if you have specific redemption in mind. But if you're just buying points speculatively, that's a different calculation that we'll talk about in a second with more specific examples. Does that make sense, Sean?
Yeah, for sure. I think, especially on your point, buying speculatively, completely different math. I do want to also give some notes on if you are buying for a discount opportunity you found, a redemption that you have in mind that you'd be able to save money or at least stay at the place you want to stay at for a cost that you could afford. Couple notes. One is this is usually going to be best for aspirational stays with very, very high cash costs. Typically, that's where we'll see the best value. And two is to remember that when you're paying points for a redemption versus paying cash, you aren't earning anything back in points. So if I, stay at that Hilton with points, I'm not getting any Hilton points on that stay because I paid with points. They're not going to give me any points. And so, if there's a marginal difference in the cash price versus the price of buying the points and staying there, a lot of times it would actually make more sense to just pay the cash, because then I would be getting back so many points. Hilton's very generous in the amount of points you earn, that it would actually arguably be cheaper. And additionally, when you pay with cash at a lot of these high-end places, usually you can get other promotions, maybe like, fourth night free. You can stack with FHR to get some dining credit. So that's another thing to keep in mind. But of course, like in that example, if there's like a literally double the price for the hotel, then, buying points and spending would make much more sense.
It's another quick point I want to add really quick. A lot of times when you buy points, they're actually being sold on like a third-party website such as points.com. So the credit card you use to buy points will not recognize that as like a travel category or a flight category or hotel category. So oftentimes it makes the most sense to use like a flat cashback card or like a flat 2x card, such as Citi Double Cash, Capital One Venture X, Blue Business Plus, etc., or a card that you're working toward a sign-up bonus on. Additionally, sometimes there are opportunities to stack these points buying opportunities with like cashback portals such as, Rakuten or other, check out Cashback Monitor for that.
Yeah, very good point. There's ways you could, bring down the cost by a few percent, which could actually make a big difference, especially if they have a good cashback portal promotion going on, depending on the portal. But so
yes.
Now let's move on to some, just some quick specific examples we have. So we talked about the theoreticals. What are some specific examples that we think would be, could be wise to buy points? So one, I think, is for sure IHG points. IHG points are awful to transfer, but are very competitive to purchase. So on sale, you can usually buy them at half a cent a piece, and with pretty generous caps. Or, as I mentioned in episode 1, we talked about this, you can buy them uncapped at 0.6 cents a piece, which, yes, is significantly more expensive, but uncapped is very, very powerful there. And if you're staying in increments of 4 nights at IHG properties, you could find yourself getting some pretty good discounts. So, let's say if a property you're getting 1 cent a point redemption value from, that's 50% off effectively. So that's a really good way to save money if you're going to be going to IHG hotels. That's a way you could turn a hotel stay that would normally be way too expensive into something rather reasonable. So it's really, really worth looking into buying IHG points, and what's unique about this one is it's both for aspirational and economy stays. There's a lot of economy stays at IHG points where you could get 1 cent a point if you're staying for 4 nights. So I think that's one of the strongest programs to buy points in.
Sean is referring to the buy 3 get 1 free sort of deal you get when you have any of the IHG credit cards. That unlocks the 4th night free benefit when you're staying with points. So if you book a consecutive stay of 4 nights, the 4th one doesn't cost you any points.
Exactly, yeah. And do you want to cover the next one then, Sherwin? So what's another good example of when we can buy points? Sure, there's a number of them.
One of them, one we've talked about on this podcast is Wyndham points. Now, normally Wyndham points are not worth that much, but they have a specific partnership with Vacasa Vacation Rentals where you can book any vacation rental, that's under a certain cap for 15,000 points per bedroom per night. And since it's kind of like fixed based on the number of bedrooms rather than the cash price, you can often get very good 2 to 3 cents per point with this. And Wyndham points are often on sale for less than 1 cent each. So you can basically, sort of guarantee yourself staying for less than $150 per bedroom per night on any Vacasa vacation rental. Not to mention that when you book through Wyndham points, these Vacasa vacation rentals don't charge you taxes and fees, which can be very exorbitant for these vacation rental type properties. So I think this is an amazing opportunity. In effect, the way I explain this is you can stay at almost any Vacasa for $150 per bedroom per night, which is a huge discount if you go look at some of those prices.
Yes, I do want to throw in there was recently a devaluation of this, unfortunately. So it used to be where 15,000 points would get you a rental costing $500, including all taxes, per night per bedroom. So if the rental you're trying to book for that one night or, however many nights per night was $500 after all taxes, that would work for 1 bedroom. Now it seems to only work up to $350, unfortunately. However, that could still cover a very good amount of rentals and still represents a very, very good value, less than half the price.
Yes. Okay. We are also talked about Hilton. So really quickly, I wouldn't buy Hilton points speculatively the way I would buy IHG points because I think they're worth a little less, especially on the more economy side. I feel like Hilton hotels are very expensive points wise. But if you're going to an aspirational property like the Waldorf Astoria Cabo, the Conrad Maldives, you can often get close to 1 cent per point. So buying them on sale for half a cent per point almost always makes sense over like paying the cash price. Also, keep in mind Hilton includes resort fees on point stays, so that could also be a significant savings.
Yeah, and especially what's also nice is because you're not paying taxes, it really does help for places like Cabo, which have very high hotel taxes. So a night at the Waldorf Astoria Cabo, if you're paying cash on a good rate, after taxes is like $1,400 on a good, that would be a good price. So if you're buying the points at half a cent a piece and you're staying 5 nights and Hilton has 5th night free, assuming you have any of their credit cards, you're effectively paying only $480 a night, which yes is expensive, but very, very, very cheap compared to the usual cash price. And of course, one of the big caveats though is for these aspirational places, especially on Hilton's end, the points availability might not always be great, so always check that before buying points.
Yeah.
Another potentially good one could be buying Hyatt points on sale below 1.7 cents a piece. Now, this isn't potentially as good as some of the other ones, but if you are staying at aspirational hotels, it could be very good, such as like Park Hyatt Maldives, Alila Maldives, those type of things. Buying at 1.7 cents a piece could be very good given Hyatt's very low price of their redemption values. So this could be a very good one. Have you ever bought Hilton points or Hyatt points before, Sherwin?
I have bought Hyatt points before because I knew there were redemptions I would make that are way more than 2 or 3 cents per point. So 1.7 seemed like a reasonable number to me. And also do keep in mind Hyatt waives all resort and destination fees when you are staying on points. So you could actually save a lot of money. These fees are kind of going crazy right now in terms of their amount. So, you could save a lot of money with this trick.
Definitely, yeah. And I think one other one I want to mention, and this is really important if you're watching the podcast shortly after release, Aeroplan at time of recording is having a very competitive sale on their points right now at a minimum price, the highest price at 1.27 cents each. And certain accounts are targeted for a price as low as 1.13 cents a piece. That is and you can buy up to 1 million Aeroplan points at this price. Actually, since it's actually technically a bonus, if you're targeted for the really good offer, you can actually buy technically more. This is very, very, very competitive, especially if you have that targeted price, because Aeroplan is such a versatile program. There are so many, as a Star Alliance program, there's so many partner airlines. They allow stopovers for only 5,000 points more per stopover. The redemption rates are fairly competitive and at a price, and the taxes are low as well. So at a price of 1.13 cents per point, it is really, really, really good value. So if you are planning to do any aspirational travel in business class and you're flexible and you think you could use these, it is something that I would seriously consider. Unfortunately, I'm not targeted for the offer. If I was, I probably would be buying points. I may even be buying them at the standard sale price, though, at 1.27. But at 1.13, I think it's a phenomenal value. What are your thoughts on this? Is it as good as I'm saying, or do you think
I really do think it is. Even at 1.27 cents per point, it's almost like a no-brainer if you know you're going to fly certain redemptions. And I think their reward chart is pretty good. And as you said, they're versatile. So their Star Alliance, they also have unique partners with like Etihad. They have access to like Singapore reward space that other Star Alliance partners don't have. So there are like some sort of hidden advantages with this program. And 1.3 cents per point is great. Like for reference, there, if I fly from the West Coast to Asia in business class, that's like 75,000 points. So if I bought points at like 1.27 cents per point, it's around $1,000 ballpark. And usually these tickets cost $3,000 to $4,000 for one way. So getting almost a 2/3 discount on the cash price if I were to buy the ticket.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a really strong value, and it's something people should consider, especially because you could, it's not even like that. I mean, yeah, for like a ticket like that, it's not that expensive. I mean, of course, yes, $1,000 for a one way ticket is expensive, but relative to what the retail price is and how many points you're able to buy right now, it's not that bad. So, okay, we've talked about a lot of good examples buying points. Did you have any other good examples you wanted to talk about, or
I
should we
think
talk
Life
about?
Miles often has good sales, often at around 1.3 cents per point, if I recall correctly. Avianca Life Miles, they're also a Star Alliance partner. They have some sweet spots. For example, if you fly like Lufthansa first, I think it's like 87,000 miles, which is pretty competitive. So, look into that. It can often be cheap. Oftentimes, even if you see a particular redemption, and even if the cents per point that's on sale currently isn't like the best, it could still be cheaper to buy the points redeemed for that flight rather than pay cash for it. So make sure you do your research.
Definitely. So we've talked about a lot of good examples, specific good examples buying points. Let's cover a bad example buying points. And this is just a general trend. This isn't a hard rule. But one program that I've seen that I find to have points for sale that are way too expensive is Marriott. Marriott is charging out the wazoo for their points, and I think it's ridiculous. So even on sale with Marriott points, it usually I think it's around zero point 0.9 cents per point. Maybe it's a little less, but given the price that Marriott charges points wise for their hotels, I think it's tough to get value here. I mean, even at their aspirational places, yes, you can save money. I will not contest that. It could be a savings of several $100s a night, but we're not talking about the 50% off, 40% off, huge, massive savings that you'll see with the other programs that we mentioned. It may be like, the $1,500 a night hotel is $1,000 a night or $1,100 a night. So I feel like Marriott points usually don't make sense to buy. Of course, the exception being if you need to top off for a particular redemption, or if you do have some very, very specific redemption in mind. Of course, there are cases where it still would make sense. But I would, like with the other ones we mentioned, I would not scoff at someone speculatively buying points. I'm not saying I would necessarily recommend doing it, but I could see arguments to speculatively buying points in any of those ones. For Marriott, I would see it would be a tough sell to me. What are your thoughts on that? And then also, are there any other bad examples that you have in mind of buying points as a trend?
Yeah, I pretty much agree. I think, yeah, Marriott points are just kind of hard to acquire. It doesn't make sense to transfer them from like Chase or American Express. Yet at the same time, you can't really buy them at like a really good rate, such as IHG. So it's kind of this iffy zone of it could potentially be good value, but could potentially really not make sense. In terms of other examples, I think a lot of airline miles are like hard to buy at a good rate. I think like American Airlines miles often cost like 2 to 3 cents per point. United can be pretty expensive as well. But I mean, sometimes they have sales, but it just depends on your use case and on the sale.
I agree. Yeah, it will depend on the specific sale and the specific airline. As you said, Aeroplan's having a great sale, but American doesn't really have sales that often, except that one back several years ago. Where you could buy about half a cent a point. That was painful.
Was it really
But
a sale? Yeah.
it wasn't a sale. It was a like the shopping portal donate to charity promotion. But short
Yeah.
story is you could have bought it for less than half a cent a piece. I wasn't targeted. It was so sad, but that would be insane. If you ever see an airline point a half a cent a piece of any of the major programs, probably speculatively buy, but it depends. So, is there any other things that you wanted to mention? Oh, times that we've bought points ourselves. So for me, I've bought points. On the top of my head, I bought Wyndham points for Vacasa rentals, which I've redeemed pre the devaluation. I think that was a pretty easy purchase. I did purchase Alaska points like almost 2 years ago because I was trying to get a business class ticket to Japan and I just didn't have enough. And it would have been like, I think it was like $800 to top off, which, for a business class ticket really isn't too bad. I bought Hyatt points before for a very like a specific for the Grand Hyatt Kauai, which I was able to get 3+ cents per point out of, so that was worth it. And then of course I've also bought an IHG points where I've used that to stay in Hong Kong at a much discounted rate. I think it was like the hotel was normally like 200 something a night, and I was paying like 130.
The Maldives, right?
Oh, I also did it for, yeah, what am I saying? I did it for the Maldives too. I bought IHG points. I paid the equivalent price, which is absurd. I paid the equivalent price of $375 a night for 6 cents Islamic by buying points because I did fourth night free. This was back before they changed the points prices, but that's absurd. That hotel went for like $1,200 something a night. I was paying the $375 for an overwater villa in the Maldives. So those are some examples I bought points, and I don't regret any of those. How about for you?
Yeah, I think the IHG is a really good example. I've also bought IHG points and found them really useful. Like, when we were staying in London and all the prices were, super expensive, I was able to get like a huge discount by leveraging the fourth night free, as well as just, it being cheaper to buy the points at 0.5 cents per point and then redeem them at close to 0.8 or 0.9 cents per point than to pay cash for it. And I think it also illustrated that, it was just like a pretty standard Holiday Inn, but that you can get good value for these IHG points by buying them, even for like lower end or like economic stays. Whereas Hilton is more, buying points really only makes sense for the most aspirational ones, where IHG has a good range. I don't know if this technically counts as buying points, but I have redeemed flights on Aeroplan by choosing to pay less or fewer points and more cash. They have options where, for example, you could lower a 75,000 point flight to like 45,000 points and then pay the difference in cash as if you were buying those points for like 1.2 or 1.3 cents per point. I find that to be very, very worth it, especially if you're doing long haul business class. What else? I think, I've also bought Alaska miles when they're on sale to make a specific redemption when they had a partnership with Starlux Airlines. We had enough points for one way and a little bit for the other way, but not enough. So, and then even though we didn't get targeted for the best sale at that time, given that I was going to buy this ticket and it would still be a huge discount from the cash price, it was worth it for me to do that to sort of top up. So yeah, those are some examples I can think of.
Awesome. I think those are some very good examples. So it goes to show that it's not a question of, should you ever buy points or not? It's when should you buy points? And, you have to wait for the specific opportunity. It's all going to be situational depending for you. But those are some examples of when it might make sense. So I think that's it. Are you ready to close out?
Yes. So thank you all for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed it, please give us a like, a thumbs up, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are rapidly growing and really appreciate your support. And if you do so, you'll help support us and enable us to create more quality content.
Definitely. And if you want to learn award travel completely for free and want to connect with a group of people with similar interests, check out the Travel Lane Discord group at the link in the description. 100% for free. You will learn a ton and we'll drop amazing deal alerts. And also, if you do want to help support us directly, the best way to do that is if you're ever applying for any credit cards, to use our affiliate links also in the description. Doesn't cost you anything, but it helps us out a ton. You have no idea. So thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next week.
Sounds good. Goodbye.